The market was full of shouting, haggling and crying. People walked past the cages of human beings. Men and women were caged together, sold like goats. Among them was a girl. Her hair was dusty, her dress torn, her hands were tied behind her back. Her name was Zinachi, and she was only 17. She kept her eyes low, her lips tight, but her heart, it was shouting. She had been taken from her village at night. The raiders came with fire and swords. She had watched her brother died. Her mother, she didn't even know if she was alive. Now she stood in the slave market of Oyo Kingdom. People pointed at her, judged her body, her face. Then a royal guard approached. "That one," he said, pointing at Zinachi. "Bring her to the palace." She didn't struggle. She didn't speak. She just walked. Inside the palace, the slave girls were lined up. The king, Oba Adewale, stepped forward with his staff of ivory. He looked at the girls, one by one. When his eyes reached Zinachi, he froze. His staff fell from his hand. The girls rushed to help him, thinking he was sick. But the king's eyes were wide, his mouth open. Where did you find her?" he asked slowly. "From the Oyo market, Your Majesty," the guard replied. The king looked again. "No, that face, that's not just a slave girl. That face belongs to my past." Zinachi was taken to the palace workers' room. She was to wash clothes and sweep floors. Other girls whispered about her. Why did the king stare at her like that? Maybe she's cursed, or maybe she's special. But Zinachi kept quiet. She was used to being silent. That night, she sat by the small window, staring at the stars. She thought of her mother, her brother, her village. She thought of a river that used to flow behind their huts. Tears rolled down her face. She didn't know that in another room of the palace, the king couldn't sleep either. He paced the floor, his hands trembled. It can't be. After all these years? He walked to the wooden box and opened it. Inside was an old cloth. Wrapped in it was a small necklace, a piece of cowrie on a red string. He whispered, "Zinachi." The queen, Moriah, watched her husband behind the curtains. She had seen the way he looked at the slave girl. She had seen the shock in his eyes, and now she saw him holding the old necklace again. "He never looks at me like that," she murmured. "Not in all these years." She called her maid. "Who is that girl, the new one?" "They say her name is Zinachi, my queen." The queen's eyebrows rose. "Zinachi?" That name rang a bell. She had heard the king whisper it before in his dreams. Now jealousy burned inside her like hot oil. "Watch her. Watch every step she takes and report back to me." "Yes, Your Highness." The palace was quiet. Even the wind outside seemed to sleep. Zinachi was lying on her mat when she heard the knock. Tap, 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 tap. She sat up, her heart beating fast. "Zinachi," a soft voice called. "The king wants to see you now." She quickly tied her wrapper, not even knowing what to expect. Two guards led her through the secret parts. Corridor she had never seen before. The lanterns glowed faintly along the walls. Then they stopped at the golden door. One guard pushed it open and bowed. "Enter." Inside, the king sat alone in his private chamber. There were no drums, no chiefs, no crown, just him and the necklace in his hand. Zinachi stepped in slowly. "Kneel," a voice said softly. It wasn't a command, it was full of emotion. Zinachi knelt. The king walked up to her and looked into her eyes, long and hard. Then he whispered, "Do you remember your father?" Zinachi's face changed. Her lips trembled. He died when I was little. My mother told me he worked in a palace once." The king nodded slowly. "Did she ever tell you his name?" "No, your majesty. Only that he was kind, that he played the flute." The king gasped. He turned away, covered his face. Zinachi didn't understand. Then he said the words that shook her. "Zinachi, I am your father." Zinachi stared at him, shocked. She thought it was a dream. My what?" "Your father. I met your mother many years ago when I was a young priest. I wasn't married then. I traveled in secret to the east. I was studying herbs, medicine. That's when I met Unenna, your mother. She was a healer, strong, wise, beautiful. We fell in love in secret, but I was called back to Oyo before I could marry her. When I returned, our village had been attacked, burned. I searched everywhere, but I never found her. And now, here you are. Her face, her eyes, her fire." Tears streamed down Zinachi's cheek. All her life, she thought she was nobody, a village girl, a slave, a number. Now she was royalty. But her voice trembled as she asked, "Why didn't you look older? Why did you leave us?" The king dropped to his knees. I failed both of you, but now I want to make it right." He reached out and tied the cowrie necklace around her neck. "From now on, you are not a slave. You are a princess." The next morning, palace whispers spread like fire in dry grass. The king met with the slave girl in secret. She now wears a royal necklace. Who is she? Queen Murayo smashed her drinking cup on the floor. "Princess? That slave?" Ahmed knelt beside her. "My queen, I saw them. He called her daughter. He gave her a red cowrie." Queen Murayo's eyes burned. "That necklace was supposed to go to my son. That girl is going to ruin everything." She stood up. "Get me the herbalist, the one from Malaysia, the one who knows poison that leaves no trace." Night fell again over Oyo Kingdom, but peace did not. In the deepest part of the palace, where even the moon refused to shine, a man arrived in secret. He was old, bent, eyes like hungry lizard. He carried a bag of black roots and red powder. He bowed before Queen Murayo. "I have come as you requested, my queen." She leaned close and whispered, "There is a girl, a new slave. The king calls her daughter. I want her gone, but quietly." The herbalist grinned. "There is a herb. It kills slowly, one drop in her food every morning, and in 7 days her breath will stop." The queen gave him gold. "Start tomorrow." But the herbalist didn't tell her he had seen the girl's face once before, many years ago in a dream, and the spirit warned him, if she dies, Oyo will fall. Zinachi woke up in a new room, curtains like clouds, pillows like soft yams. Servants called her princess. She was given fine clothes, anklet of gold, and a maid to attend to her. But her heart was not happy. She stood at the mirror and whispered to herself, "How can I be a princess when I was a slave just yesterday? What if they all find out? What if it's a mistake?" She missed her mother. She missed her brother. The king came in smiling. "You are my daughter, and soon the kingdom will know." But Zinachi shook her head. "No, Papa, not yet. Not until I understand why the gods brought me here." That morning, Zinachi sat for breakfast. The porridge was sweet and the meat was soft. But just before she took a bite, the old Abali stepped in, pretending to inspect the kitchen. Their eyes met. Something passed between them. The old man whispered something under his breath and dropped a pinch of salt on the plate. Zinachi felt a sharp chill. Her hand froze in the air. She put down the spoon. I'm not hungry anymore." She walked out, her stomach turning. The Abalis exhaled. The spirits are with her. Queen Morea waited in her chambers, sipping sweet palm wine. She expected news of Zinachi falling ill or fainting, but nothing came. When her maid returned, shaking her head, the queen stood up in rage. "You mean she's still walking? Laughing, eating?" She threw her cup across the room. "Then we must try something else." She called for the palace messenger. "Send word to General Okonkwo. Tell him I want the girl removed. Not quietly. Let it look like an accident." Her voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. "Let her drown in the palace river tonight." It was evening. The sun was melting behind the hills like fire sinking into the earth. Zinachi's maid entered her chamber with a smile. "Princess, the king wants you to walk by the royal river this evening. He says the breeze will calm your thoughts." Zinachi hesitated. The day had felt strange, heavy, but she nodded. "All right, just for a walk." As she stepped outside, 2 guards followed her at distance. But these were not her father's usual guards. They looked different. Eyes cold, hands on sharp swords. She walked down the silent path, her carrying necklace glowing softly in the light. By the time she reached the riverbank, the guards moved closer. One whispered, "Now!" The other pulled a rope from his robe. Zinachi turned just in time to see them rush her. "What are you doing?" They grabbed her, tied her hands, dragged her to the water. "Please, why?" But they said nothing. As they pushed her towards the edge, a loud voice echoed from the trees. "Stop!" It was Prince Juwon, the king's only son. He stepped out from behind the trees, sword in hand. His eyes burned like fire. "Let her go! Now!" The guards froze. We were sent by the queen," one stammered. "Then go tell the queen that if she touches the girl again, she will answer to the guards and to me," Prince Juwon growled. The guards dropped the rope and fled. Zinachi collapsed by the river, shaking. Juwon rushed to her side and untied her hands. "Are you alright?" She looked at him with tears in her eyes. Why would the queen want to kill me?" Juwon helped her up. "Because you are a threat to her power." They walked back slowly under the orange sky. For the first time, Zinachi saw something in Juwon's eyes she didn't expect. Kindness and a deep, painful secret. That night, the king summoned the oracle of Oyo. A blind old woman dressed in white entered the throne room, her staff made of bone, a necklace made of lion teeth. The king bowed to her. "Great one, I seek the truth. Should I declare Zinachi as my heir?" The oracle didn't speak. She placed her hand on the ground, whispered to the earth, then raised her head. Her eyes were cloudy, but her voice was thunder. "If you crown her, the kingdom will break." The king froze. "But..." "And then it will rise again. The girl carries a storm in her blood and a healing in her spirit. But beware, your palace is not loyal. blood will spill before the truth is revealed. She stood up, turned to leave, and whispered one last thing. The queen is not your only enemy. The next morning, Queen Moriah sat alone in her chamber, her eyes full of smoke and bitterness. The drowning plan had failed, but she had one more trick. She called her royal goldsmith. Make me a beautiful anklet for the princess. Make it shine like the moon. But your highness, the goldsmith said, I thought she was not. Do it, the queen snapped. When the anklet was finished, she took it to the herbalist in secret. Add the powder to the inside. A slow death. It must look like sickness. The herbalist looked worried. My queen, I warned you. The spirits. I said do it, the queen snapped. Later that evening, the queen herself delivered the gift to Zinachi. You are the daughter of my husband. Let me bless you with something beautiful. Zinachi smiled shyly and accepted it. As she slipped it onto her ankle, her skin prickled, but she said nothing. She didn't know death had just kissed her skin. Days passed, Zinachi became weaker. She didn't eat, her legs ached, her skin burned at night, but she didn't tell anyone. She thought it was just stress. One night, Prince Juwo found her sitting alone under the palace tree. You have been quiet, she nodded. I don't feel like myself. Maybe I don't belong here. He sat beside her. Zinachi, I want to tell you something. When I first saw you, something pulled inside me. I tried to ignore it, but it grew stronger each day. You are not just a girl from nowhere. I believe you are the future of this kingdom. Tears filled Zinachi's eyes. But I'm just a slave girl. Juwon shook his head. No, you are the reason my father laughs again. You are the voice the people whisper about, and you are the girl I can't stop thinking about. Then he reached for her hand. Let me protect you. She smiled faintly, but as they stood to leave, she staggered and nearly collapsed. Zinachi! That same night, a heavy rain fell over Oyo. Lightning flashed, thunder rolled. The king sat in his chamber, holding an old box, a box that only he and one other person knew about. He opened it slowly. Inside were letters, old, stained, forgotten letters. And in the very last one was a name, Zinachi. The king's hands trembled. It can't be. Just then a knock at the door. It was the herbalist. Your Majesty, I must speak. The queen, she tried again. She poisoned the girl. What? The anklet on her foot, it carries death. The king leapt up. Find her. Bring the healer and summon the guards. If my daughter dies, there will be war in this palace. The king's voice rose like thunder. Zinachi lay still on her bed. Her skin was pale, her breath was shallow. The poison from the queen's anklet had spread through her veins like fire. The palace healers surrounded her. They tried herbs, steam, spells, but her body grew colder. Prince Juwo held her hand and whispered, Stay with me, please don't go. The king entered, heart pounding. Remove the anklet! The healer pulled it off quickly and tossed it into the pot of fire. Sparks flew. A strange smell filled the room. Then Zinachi gasped. Her body shook. Her eyes opened slowly. What happened? Tears poured from Juwon's face. You came back. She survived, but the king had seen enough. Guards! He shouted. Arrest the queen! Queen Moriah was in her private chamber when the palace guards stormed in. She jumped to her feet. What is the meaning of this? The king entered behind them. His voice was cold. "You tried to kill her again, and this time I have proof." "She is a slave," the queen screamed. "She doesn't belong in this palace." "Wrong," the king shouted. He threw the letter on the table. "She is my daughter, my blood." The room went silent. The queen froze. "No, that's not possible." "I wrote this letter to her mother 18 years ago," the king said. "A woman I loved before I became king. She left pregnant to protect our child from you." Tears rolled down the queen's face, not from guilt but from rage. "You lied to me all these years," the queen said. "No, you lied to yourself," replied the king. He turned to the guards. "Lock her in the tower. She will face the elders' judgment." As the queen was dragged away, she screamed, "She will never be queen, never!" But her voice faded behind the cold iron door. Days later, the palace was quiet. Zinachi sat beside the king in the royal garden, her body still ailing, her soul still shaking. The king looked at her with soft eyes. "You have survived what many would not." He held out the old letter. "Your mother loved you. She hid you to keep you safe, and now the truth has returned you to me." Zinachi held the letter in shaking hands, her eyes filled with tears. I thought I was nothing." "You are everything," the king whispered. At that moment, Prince Juwon appeared, opened a small box. "This belongs to you now." He opened it. Inside was a silver crown, delicate, powerful, beautiful. But Zinachi hesitated. "I have scars. I'm not perfect." Juwon smiled. "Scars means you've survived, and survivors make the best rulers." Zinachi touched the crown gently, and for the first time in her life, she believed she was worthy. The palace was filled with music and lights. Drums echoed, dancers twirled. The people of Oyo wore their finest clothes to witness history. Today, Zinachi, once a slave girl, would be named a princess. She stood before the mirror in her royal robe. Her skin was glowing again. The poison was gone, but her heart still trembled. "Am I ready for this?" she asked softly. Her maidservant smiled. "My lady, you were born for this. Your strength has crowned you." As the palace door opened, she stepped into the light. Gasps filled the air. Even the enemies of the royal family could not deny Zinachi looked like a true daughter of kings. Just as the king stood to place the crown on Zinachi's head, a voice rang out in the crowd. "Stop!" Everybody turned. An old woman dressed in tattered wrappers walked forward. She leaned on a wooden cane. Zinachi's eyes widened. "Mama?" It was a real mother. Her hands were weak, her hair had gone grey, but her love had not changed. She bowed before the king. "I never wanted to hide her, but I had to protect her from the palace poison." "You did the right thing," said the king, helping her up. He turned to Zinachi. "And now your mother will watch you rise." He placed the crown on Zinachi's head, and the crowd erupted in cheers. "Long live Princess Zinachi!" But through the cheers, Zinachi saw one face that mattered most. Prince Juwon. He nodded, proud, but something in his eyes said he knew the story was not over yet. That night, Zinachi stood alone on the palace balcony, crown on her head, but a storm in her heart. Prince Juwon joined her. "You were perfect today." She looked at him with unsure eyes. "They want me to prepare for rulership. I will have to travel, study, maybe marry a prince from another kingdom." He took a deep breath. "And what about us?" She looked away. Do you love me because of who I am now, or because of who I was when I had nothing? He stepped closer. I loved you when you were sweeping the floor. I loved you when you were drowning. I loved you before I even knew your name. Tears slipped down her cheek. Then fight for me. He smiled. Always. They stood there side by side, no longer just a prince and a slave girl, but two hearts, brave enough to love across the lines of blood, pain and power. And in the distance, the kingdom of Oyo prepared for a future that would never forget the girl who rose from dust to destiny. No matter how small or broken your beginning may be, the truth will always rise. And sometimes, a crown is not something placed on your head. It's something you earned with scars. Hi guys, thanks so much for watching this video to the end. Kindly subscribe and like this video. Thank you. See you in the next video.